I know great martial artists, and there's never been anybody, in my opinion, like Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was unbelievable.
When Bruce Lee and Jim Kelly met, it was more than just casting in a film. It was recognition. It was respect. It was the quiet bond between two warriors.
Bruce was the type of guy that could spar with you, hands and feet.
Both scarred by struggle, both driven by purpose, both aware that destiny had placed them side by side. Their meeting on Enter the Dragon was not a chance. It was a moment shaped by years of pain, triumph, and unshakable belief.
It was Bruce Lee's film, and I love Bruce Lee. As far as I'm concerned, he's the greatest martial artist ever lived.
For Jim, it was validation. For Bruce, it was trust. For both, it was brotherhood. A brief crossing of lives that would echo far beyond the screen. A champion's path. Jim Kelly's journey began far from the bright lights of Hollywood. He was a boy who loved sports, a natural athlete who seemed at home wherever competition called. In school, he excelled at football, track, and baseball. His speed was sharp, his body strong, and his spirit unwilling to rest. On the field, he found rhythm, but inside, he searched for something deeper. He wanted his life to carry meaning, not just victories. At first, martial arts was not his dream. It was a way to stay in shape, a new discipline to test his limits. But the more time he spent training, the more he felt its pull. The repetition, the focus, the demand for precision, all gave him a sense of purpose. Unlike other sports, martial arts is not just about winning against another person. It was about conquering yourself. For Jim, that realization changed everything. Still, his road was not without pain. At the University of Louisville, he played football with promise, but his spirit broke when he saw the ugly face of racism. A coach insulted a teammate, and Jim could not accept it. He left the team, walking away from what many thought would be his future. Some called it a mistake. For him, it was necessary. Pride mattered more than applause. Dignity mattered more than success in a game. That choice pushed him fully into martial arts. The dojo became his ground, his testing place, where sweat and struggle turned into growth. Every punch, every kick, every bruise spoke to him in ways football never had. It was no longer training for fitness. It became the path he chose to follow, a path that would one day carry him from obscurity to the world stage. Becoming a world champion. When Jim Kelly committed himself to martial arts, he did it with a fire that surprised even those around him. What had started as a way to stay active became an obsession. He didn't just want to be good, he wanted to be the best. And he didn't speak of it as a vague dream. He gave himself a timeline, a goal as sharp as a blade. Within 1 year, he told his friends he would become the world middleweight karate champion. Many laughed. They said it was impossible to climb that high, that fast. Championships were not won with ambition alone. They were won with years of grinding, with experience earned in countless battles. Jim listened, but he didn't bend. He believed that focus could shorten the road, that discipline could carry him where others hesitated. His training became relentless. Every day was broken into sessions of strikes, kicks, conditioning, and repetition until his body felt carved for combat. He studied opponents, tested strategies, and sharpened his instincts. Pain was constant, but he welcomed it. Each bruise was proof he was moving closer to his promise. In 1971, the world saw the result. Jim Kelly entered the championships not as a favorite, but as a fighter determined to take everything. Against the odds, he won the middleweight title. 1 year later, he did it again in the heavyweight division, proving that his skill could cross weight classes. Few had ever accomplished such a feat. These victories gave him more than medals. They gave him a platform. Suddenly, his name carried weight beyond the dojo. He had proven himself not just as a competitor, but as a champion who set goals and achieved them. For Jim, it was only the beginning. Hollywood opens its doors. Success in martial arts gave Jim Kelly recognition, But he wanted more than medals. He dreamed of the screen, of reaching people in ways a trophy never could. The chance came unexpectedly. While running his karate school, he was asked to train an actor for a film. It seemed like a small job, just another way to earn a living. But once he stepped onto the set, people noticed. His presence was strong, his movements sharp, and he carried himself with quiet confidence. Producers saw something beyond a teacher. They saw a potential star. Without formal training, without even chasing the role, Jim Kelly was suddenly offered a part. It was his first taste of acting, and though he felt unprepared, the camera loved him. What began as a side opportunity opened a new door, one that would soon lead him far from the studio and into the world of cinema legends. Meeting Bruce Lee.
Film industry working alongside Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon in 1973.
Jim Kelly's path to Hong Kong was sudden. He had barely adjusted to acting when the call came for Enter the Dragon. The studio had doubts, but Bruce Lee was firm. He wanted Jim, not just an actor, but a real fighter who carried truth in his movements. Their first meeting could have felt formal, but it wasn't. Outside Golden Harvest Studios, Bruce stepped from a car and walked straight toward Jim. There was no hesitation, no barrier of fame. He greeted him with warmth, as though they had known each other for years. From that moment, a bond formed. Bruce saw in Jim a fellow warrior who had fought his own battles, who understood what it meant to struggle and rise again. Jim, in turn, found in Bruce a kindred spirit, someone who respected him not as a token addition, but as an equal. On that set, in a foreign city, two lives touched in a way neither could have planned. It felt less like work and more like destiny unfolding. Brotherhood on set. The days on Enter the Dragon were intense. The set carried tension, not only from the long hours, but from the weight of what they were creating. Yet within that pressure, Jim Kelly and Bruce Lee found their rhythm. They trained together, sparred together, and shared quiet conversations between takes. Jim saw what many only guessed. Bruce's speed was real, his power undeniable. Even though Jim was bigger, he admitted that Bruce could cut through him with ease. Their sparring was not staged. It was raw, a test of skill, and Jim left each session with deeper respect. Not every moment on set was smooth. During one fight sequence, an accident left Bruce's hand badly cut. Jim noticed how he contained his anger, refusing to lash out. It showed a discipline that went beyond fighting. It was control of the spirit. For Jim, these experiences built more than memories. They built trust. What began as professional respect grew into brotherhood. Two men from different worlds, standing side by side in a story larger than themselves. The role of Williams. The character of Williams was not written with Jim Kelly in mind. The studio wanted a safer choice, someone already known to audiences. But Bruce Lee refused. He wanted authenticity, a fighter who carried truth in his stance and presence. He fought for Jim, and Jim got the role. Playing Williams was more than a job. It was a statement. For Jim, it meant representing strength and dignity at a time when roles for black actors were scarce and often limited. On screen, he carried himself with quiet power, not as a side character, but as a man of purpose. Still, Jim later admitted frustration. The film did not show the full range of his ability. The fights were short, the techniques simplified, and his time cut short by the script. Yet even in that limited space, he left an impact. His presence lingered, proof that his role was not about quantity, but about what it represented. Doors that opened after. Enter the Dragon changed Jim Kelly's life. Almost overnight, he went from a newcomer to a recognizable face. Warner Brothers offered him a 3-picture deal, something most young actors could only dream of. For the first time, he was not just supporting a story, he was leading it. Films like Black Belt Jones, Golden Needles, and Hot Potato gave him the chance to stand at the center. In Black Belt Jones especially, his style and charisma carried the movie. It was proof that audiences wanted to see him not just as a fighter, but as a star. The box office numbers spoke loudly. Low-budget productions turned into major profits, and Jim's name began to travel far beyond martial arts circles. Yet even with success, he never let the glamour blind him. Hollywood was a business, and he knew it. What mattered more to him was showing young people, especially black kids, that they could see someone like themselves on screen. powerful, confident, unafraid. Bruce's offer and the dream that died. Before Jim Kelly left Hong Kong, Bruce Lee spoke to him with excitement. He told Jim they would work together again, this time not as supporting characters, but as partners. Bruce wanted him in his next film. For Jim, those words were more than an invitation. They were a promise of something greater, a chance to grow alongside a friend he deeply respected. But the future never came.
I think Bruce Lee was the greatest martial artist that ever lived.
News of Bruce's sudden death spread like a storm. Jim could hardly believe it. Just weeks earlier, they had shared plans, laughter, and brotherhood.
As an actor, as a martial artist, as a human being, all these I have learned from martial art.
Now the voice that carried so much fire was silent. The loss was not only personal, it was the end of a dream. Jim often thought about what that film could have been, what it would have meant to stand beside Bruce once more, not as a newcomer, but as a true equal. That chance never arrived. What remained was memory, a bond cut short, but never erased.
It was one incredible experience for me to have the opportunity to work with him on the set.
For Jim Kelly, Bruce Lee was not only a co-star, but the greatest martial artist he had ever known. Their time together was brief, yet it carried a weight that lasted a lifetime. Jim never forgot Bruce's kindness, his intensity, or the respect they shared. He spoke of him not as a legend untouchable.
I have the utmost respect for Bruce Lee. Anybody during Bruce Lee's time and during his era, before he died, I don't think anybody could kick Bruce Lee's.
But as a brother whose spirit lived beyond the screen. Though their paths crossed for only one film, the impact was eternal. In the silence that followed Bruce's passing, what endured was not loss, but the bond they had built on trust and struggle.